Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, share your insights in the comments, and subscribe to keep up with our newest tales. It was a tranquil evening, one of those calm, almost hauntingly serene nights that felt like they could go on forever. After a long day at the office, I noticed the last of the team trickling out, and I felt a pull to stay a little longer. My boss, Mr. Harris, requested that I linger a little longer to assist with some paperwork, which was nothing out of the ordinary. As the minutes ticked by, an unmistakable feeling began to wash over me, hinting that something was amiss. The atmosphere around us had transformed gently, reminiscent of that elusive, unvoiced tension that lingers in the air. In that moment, it was just the two of us enveloped in the soft glow of the dimly lit office, where the hum of the fluorescent lights filled the silence. Mr. Harris sat behind his desk as he always did, but tonight there was an intriguing shift in his demeanor that drew my gaze. His typically calm demeanor was laced with an unusual anxiety, his fingers restlessly playing with the edges of a pile of papers before him. "Is everything okay, Mr. Harris?" I inquired, my tone gentle, even as I aimed for a laid-back vibe. He glanced up at me, his typical commanding demeanor wavering for just a moment. In his eyes, a weight lingered that was unlike anything I had encountered before. After a long pause, he let out a deep sigh, pushing the papers aside, as if their burden had lost all significance. "I have something to share with you," he murmured, his tone soft and tinged with uncertainty. A surge of curiosity washed over me, intertwined with a peculiar feeling of unease. This was out of character for him. Mr. Harris had always exuded a sense of professionalism and restraint. What could he possibly share that would lead him to behave like this? I nodded slowly, placing my own papers aside. "Absolutely. What would you like to share?" He inhaled deeply, his gaze wandering to the window, as if he were on a quest for the perfect words to share. "There's a secret I've held close, one I've never shared with anyone, and I believe the moment has come for you to hear it." I straightened my posture, feeling my heart begin to race with anticipation. My imagination whirled with endless narratives. What could he be trying to convey? The man who had always exuded confidence and authority was on the verge of revealing something deeply personal, a burden that was clearly heavy on his heart. "Mr. Harris, there's no need for you to do that." I began to speak, but he raised a hand, bringing my words to a halt. "No, I do," he said with conviction. Yet there was an unexpected softness in his voice that caught me off guard. It's a significant part of my journey, a presence that has accompanied me for many years. The direction of this conversation was uncertain, yet the weight of the moment was palpable. In that moment, it felt as if the bustling world beyond those office walls, the clamor, the crowd, the relentless rhythm of daily existence had vanished, leaving only the two of us enveloped in a profound stillness. The atmosphere was thick with a warmth that wrapped around them, creating a bond that seemed to transcend reality. It felt as though I was on the brink of discovering a revelation that would forever alter my perception of him. For more than 2 decades, he shared his voice, gaining strength as if he were uncovering a well of bravery within his own narrative. I've crafted a journey here, made choices, embraced uncertainties. Yet there's a shadow from my past that I've concealed something I believed would remain undiscovered for eternity. His gaze locked with mine once more, revealing a depth of emotion in his eyes, a fragility I had never witnessed in him until now. He seemed to be grappling with his own thoughts, searching for the right words to articulate a burden that had clearly been gnawing at him for an extended period. With a gentle tone, I offered my ear, my voice a soothing comfort. Uncertainty hung in the air as I awaited his words, sensing their significance even before they were spoken. He inhaled deeply once more, and then with a voice that seemed to float just above a whisper, he started to share his tale. "There was a time when I was not the person you see before you in this office. Once upon a time, I found myself wandering, searching for direction, if you will. I embarked on a journey of decisions, choices that I believed would shape my identity for all time. Yet it was a single evening, a moment in time that transformed my entire existence. It's a night I've kept to myself until this moment. His words lingered in the space between us, heavy with feeling, and I sensed my heart race. The atmosphere in the room crackled with intensity. He was on the brink of sharing a profound secret, one that would forever alter my perception of him. I leaned in slightly. My interest ignited, but it was clear he was grappling with something. His eyes held a flicker of uncertainty, and I sensed that the truth he was about to share weighed heavily on him. "Mr. Harris," I said gently, "you're not obligated to reveal anything you're not comfortable with. However, if it's a burden you've carried for quite some time, sharing it might bring some relief." He gazed at me, his eyes probing my expression, as if attempting to discern the truth of my intentions. After what seemed like a long passage of time, he nodded with deliberation. "Once upon a time, long before I set foot in this place for work," he started, his voice softer, as though the gravity of his words was settling in. "In a place far from home, I found myself living a life that felt entirely new. In my youth, I was wild and carefree, and let's just say, I stumbled quite a bit along the way. A choice I made brought about an unexpected turn of events that I never imagined would unfold." His words carried a weight, and the sorrow reflected in his gaze tugged at my heartstrings, stirring a profound sense of compassion within me. The events of his past were unmistakably woven into the fabric of who he had become, revealing the essence of the man I recognized now. "Text. You can stop whenever you feel ready," I said, my voice calm, aiming to provide him with reassurance, yet he resolutely shook his head steadfast in his resolve to press on. "Absolutely, it's essential for me to do so. It's important for you to be informed." That night, I found myself caught up in an experience that eluded my comprehension, a seemingly brief encounter that turned out to be a pivotal moment reshaping everything that followed. The atmosphere felt constricted, as if the very walls were closing in with an unspoken tension hanging in the air between his utterances. It was as if time stood still, and I was on the edge of my seat, eager for him to share what came next. And when he finally spoke, I understood the weight of the secret that had been hidden within him for so long. I encountered an individual. He murmured, his voice now a mere whisper. There was a person who in that moment seemed like just another element in the whirlwind of my existence, yet they revealed themselves to be something far greater. That night we wove a tale together. It was an unexpected twist, one that has lingered in my mind ever since. The gravity of his words enveloped me, much like a thick fog revealing the burden they had imposed on him. That night had etched itself into his being, leaving traces I couldn't quite grasp yet. I sensed it was an event that would alter the course of his life indefinitely. As I sat there absorbing the words of the man who had always been my boss, it struck me how profoundly connected we all are, regardless of the roles we inhabit in one another's journeys. This was a tale waiting to be unveiled. It marked a pivotal moment in his journey, a revelation he had held close for years, tucked away from the eyes of others. As we spoke, I sensed an unseen force guiding our words, weaving an invisible thread that pulled us closer together with every heartbeat. In that moment, it felt like we were no longer just colleagues, but two individuals connecting over something profoundly personal, an experience that would transform us both in ways we could hardly imagine. The atmosphere grew heavy with the significance of his words, and for a fleeting moment, all that could be heard was the rhythm of our breaths in the quiet. Mr. Harris reclined in his chair, his eyes wandering far away, as though he were reliving that night once more. The way his fingers clutched the edge of the desk told a tale of unease, and the tension in his posture painted a vivid picture of his inner turmoil. He found himself suspended in a moment, torn between the person he had become and the one he once was. I remained silent. I understood that he had to move forward in his own time. I wanted to give him the space he needed to ensure he felt comfortable and unhurried. All I could do was sit there quietly, absorbing every word, providing him with a safe haven to share his thoughts. At last he let out a slow breath, as if attempting to release a burden that had settled deep within him for an eternity. "It wasn't merely an error," he said, his voice trembling, filled with emotion. "It was a moment, a pivotal choice that I believed would shape my identity, yet back then, it was all a mystery to me. I found myself lost in a whirlwind of emotions, struggling to grasp the true essence of my feelings and the reality unfolding around me. In his eyes, I could glimpse a tale of turmoil, a battle raging within. He found himself reflecting on a past event, one that had lingered in his mind, casting a shadow over his present. Though my heart ached to extend a hand across the desk, I understood that this was a journey he had to navigate alone. I leaned in a bit, my tone soft yet resolute. "Can you share the events of that night, Mr. Harris?" He gazed into my eyes, seeking something, maybe a sense of comfort, or perhaps a sign that he wasn't navigating this moment by himself. With a deliberate nod, he seemed to resolve himself to unveil the entire tale. "I met her," he said simply, his voice barely above a whisper, as if sharing a secret meant only for the night. For a brief instant his words left me pondering their true meaning. What tales could be woven about her? What story unfolded? Yet I chose not to interject. I lingered in anticipation, eager for him to share more of his thoughts. "There was something unique about her," he remarked, his voice reflecting a deep contemplation. "There was a time in my life when chaos reigned supreme and nothing seemed to align as it should. Once upon a time, I found myself adrift, lacking both direction and purpose. And then she appeared, this woman who radiated confidence, possessing all the clarity that I found myself yearning for. I believed I was merely seeking a diversion, yet she evoked emotions in me, revealing perspectives that no one else ever had. The allure of his words enveloped me, drawing me into the depth of the emotions he painted with his voice. He spoke of her in a way that suggested she had revealed a hidden part of him, something he had never realized was absent. It transcended the mere physical. He pressed on his voice, rising in intensity. We shared our thoughts, delving into every aspect of existence, exploring aspirations, and unearthing feelings I had tucked away so far that I hadn't even acknowledged their presence. She brought me into a world where I felt significant, where I was more than just a nameless figure among many. In those moments spent together, it felt like I had unraveled the mysteries of life. His gaze wandered as if he were lost in a reverie, where the memories danced just out of reach, fading like whispers in the wind. Over time, it was as if he was journeying back through time, revisiting each moment with a clarity that suggested this was the first occasion he had genuinely contemplated it after all those years. Yet it wasn't solely the positive events that unfolded. He remarked, his tone shifting to a more somber, hushed whisper. There were instances that defied explanation, times when I sensed I was choosing paths that would lead to regret, yet I found myself unable to hold back. In the end, everything fell apart. A deep sense of compassion enveloped me as I gazed into the sorrow reflected in his eyes. The events that transpired between him and this woman had etched a profound mark on his soul. For countless years he bore that scar in quietude. "Why didn't you share it with anyone?" I inquired gently. "Why not share it openly?" With a slow shake of his head, a look of deep sorrow crossed his face, for the simple reason that I found myself unable to confront it. The thought of having let my guard down, of being so exposed and sincere with someone who remained closed off, was too much to bear. What I imagined her to be. There was a heaviness in my heart, a sense of disappointment that lingered within me. I was determined to keep that vulnerability hidden from others. His words carried a weight of openness that touched something deep within me, and I found myself softening in response. It was peculiar. This man who had always appeared so self-assured, so composed, was now revealing something deeply intimate, something profoundly personal. He embraced his humanity, acknowledging his imperfections. Could it be that does she still weave her way into your story? I inquired, a blend of intrigue and worry in my voice. It was beyond my wildest dreams to envision Mr. Harris as someone who held the mysteries of love within him. He paused, glancing at his hands for a brief moment as if contemplating the response. "No," he murmured softly. She departed. It seems she had an understanding that I wasn't quite the person I had led myself to believe I was. She perceived the truth, recognized my vulnerabilities and found them unacceptable, and I understand her perspective. "I can understand why you wouldn't have embraced them either." His tone carried a sense of closure, as if this part of his journey had reached its end, yet I could feel the lingering heaviness still enveloping him. Even after all this time, it was evident that he still held on to her, and the memories of what transpired lingered in his mind. "Mr. Harris," I said softly, "it seems like you have quite a tale to share from your journey." "A challenging tale," he nodded, his gaze locking onto mine once more. "Indeed it has. However, it has been a valuable experience for me. I've discovered that showing our true selves is not a sign of frailty. Letting someone witness your true self is a choice filled with meaning. Sometimes the shadows that linger in our minds are the very experiences that hold the greatest lessons for us." His words hung in the atmosphere, rich with meaning. In that fleeting instant, a deeper connection with him unfolded, revealing layers of understanding I had never accessed before. This was more than merely a hidden truth. Once there was a man who embraced his history, reflecting on the decisions he had taken and the wisdom those decisions had imparted to him. I leaned back in my chair, allowing his words to weave their way into my thoughts. A newfound connection lingered in the air between us, an unspoken bond that had eluded us until now. It was more than the insight he had unveiled. It was about the bond we had forged, the shared understanding that blossomed between us in these fleeting moments. As I gazed at him, I noticed a fresh glimmer in his eyes, revealing not merely the weight of his history, but a subtle power, a tenacity that stemmed from accepting every facet of his being, including those aspects he had long sought to hide. "We're all human," I said gently, my voice filled with understanding. "Often the most profound insights arise from our missteps, the moments we long to erase." He offered me a subtle, nearly undetectable smile, one that conveyed both appreciation and a feeling of liberation. "I guess that's right," he replied, his tone more serene as if he had found some inner tranquility. The quiet that lingered between us had transformed into something more comfortable. It was cozy and introspective, reminiscent of two individuals who had exchanged something profoundly intimate and had reached a shared insight. We lingered in that moment, each of us wandering through our own reflections. As I gazed at Mr. Harris, the man who had once been my boss, my superior, my mentor, it dawned on me that our relationship had transformed beyond those roles. We were two individuals, each molded by our histories, each holding our own mysteries, our own insights. In that instant, I was struck by a profound admiration for him, not because of his position, but for the person he had evolved into, in spite of the challenges and hardships he faced. The quiet moment stretched on a shared understanding, hanging in the air as we both chose to embrace the silence rather than disrupt it. It was actually quite smooth, the kind of stillness that follows a profound exchange, a moment of heartfelt connection that leaves you both drained, yet oddly satisfied. The kind of silence that speaks volumes, where every word has been exchanged. And now it's a moment to simply embrace the stillness. Mr. Harris reclined in his chair, his fingers gently tapping on the desk, as if weaving together the threads of his thoughts. His gaze drifted from mine to the window, and I traced his line of sight, observing the gentle illumination of streetlights seeping through the blinds, creating a dance of shadows throughout the room. The world beyond felt distant, and in that moment, I perceived him not merely as my superior, but as a man who had experienced life, love, and lessons in ways that were beyond my comprehension. "You know," he said, his voice low, weaving through the stillness. It's surprising to find myself sharing this with someone, especially my assistant, yet you've simplified the journey. Perhaps it's due to your ability to truly hear, to engage with every word. I nodded, a comforting warmth blossoming in my chest. I kept my thoughts to myself. I had no reason to. At times, merely existing in the moment was sufficient. It was never about providing answers or guidance. It was about embracing the struggle, the openness, and the essence of being alive in that moment. He let out a sharp breath, and I noticed his face relax as if he were gradually starting to release the burden he had borne for ages. For much of my existence, I've crafted barriers ensuring that others remain just out of reach. It felt more natural that way. Minimize danger, minimize pain. But I've come to understand that in pursuing that path, I isolated myself from experiences I never even realized were essential. I remained silent. I patiently bided my time. He was releasing everything in a way that felt liberating, as if a long-held dam had finally burst, allowing the flood of emotions to flow freely. Once she was gone, he pressed on his voice, growing more powerful. I found myself at a crossroads, unsure of the path ahead. I immersed myself in my tasks, losing myself in the details. I thought that by dedicating myself to my career and striving to achieve something meaningful, I could silence the void that lingered behind me. Yet the reality was that not even the greatest achievements or the most prestigious honors could truly satisfy that emptiness. He paused, his gaze fixed on his hands as if rediscovering them after a long absence. It was clear that he was reflecting on all that he had revealed. It felt as though he had yet to truly recognize how his history shaped the person he is today. For so long, I chased the image of who I believed I needed to become. He reflected, his voice softening. I believed that by managing every detail, by ensuring that everything was flawless, I could sidestep the hurt. Yet the reality is that perfection is a myth, and so is the idea of control. It felt like a burden had been removed from him, and I could nearly perceive the brightness in his demeanor, the feeling of liberation. In that instant, he appeared far removed from the stern, unyielding leader I had always recognized. He appeared to be a person imperfect, yet brimming with vitality and wisdom. He shared that the most challenging aspect of it all is coming to terms with his own imperfections. And that's perfectly fine. For such a long time, I've been caught up in a facade, losing touch with the essence of simply existing. What about me? His voice wavered just a bit, yet his gaze remained steady. The vulnerability resurfaced, unguarded and genuine, revealing the profound emotional battle he had faced for countless years. It was a journey that had forged him into the person he had become, yet it had also molded him in ways he had only begun to comprehend in this moment. "You don't need to strive for perfection, Mr. Harris," I murmured gently, my words slipping out before I could hold them back. "None of us are. We're navigating through this journey, discovering our path along the way." He gazed at me, and in that fleeting instant, I caught a glimpse of something in his eyes, a flicker that felt like appreciation. At first, he remained silent, but then he nodded slowly, as if my words had resonated within him in a profound way. "Indeed," he whispered softly, "in my pursuit of an ideal, I've lost sight of the essence of authenticity. Perhaps that's the insight I was meant to uncover." The atmosphere in the room had transformed, becoming brighter and more spacious. The air was thick with unspoken words, yet a sense of connection lingered, weaving an invisible thread between us. Even though I was uncertain about the direction this dialogue would take, I sensed that it had already shifted something in our connection. For what felt like an eternity, silence enveloped us. Mr. Harris appeared to be adrift in contemplation, his thoughts navigating the insights he had just unveiled. As I sat there, it dawned on me that I was also pondering the importance of the moment. It was a unique experience, a precious opportunity to step into another's realm and observe their most intimate moments. It was an honor, one I cherished deeply. At last he raised his gaze to meet mine, his eyes shining with newfound clarity. For a long time, I've been carrying a heavy load of memories and experiences. Perhaps the moment has come for me to release my grip. Perhaps the moment has come for me to embrace my own journey, rather than conforming to the hopes and dreams of others. I smiled, not from pity, but from a place of deep comprehension. There's always an opportunity to begin anew. His lips curved into a small smile in return, a smile that conveyed a rich tapestry of acceptance, growth, and the profound understanding that he had embarked on the journey toward healing. "I believe you're correct," he replied, his voice gaining confidence. "It feels like the moment has come for me to embrace my own journey." We lingered in that moment for a while longer, the quiet enveloping us in a soothing embrace. The night had settled in, and the gentle murmur of the office building began to blend into the shadows as we both pondered the events that had just unfolded. It had transformed into something much deeper. It had transformed into a tapestry of narratives woven with honesty and mutual insight. As I rose to depart, a wave of tranquility enveloped me. I was stepping out of that office with a tale to tell, not merely as his assistant. I stepped outside, feeling like a participant in a profoundly human experience with him, having observed his path and transformation. As I shut the door, a wave of gratitude washed over me for the unexpected bond we had formed, for the openness we shared, and for the gentle understanding that the most profound insights often arise not from triumphs, but from those times when we allow ourselves to be genuinely revealed. The days that followed carried a unique essence, not in any overt manner, but through the gentle, understated shifts that gradually revealed themselves as time unfolded. Mr. Harris appeared to carry a certain buoyancy. He strolled through the office enveloped in a newfound tranquility, unbound from the strict, polished facade he had meticulously built. His demeanor carried a warmth, a tender touch in how he engaged with those around him. It felt like the barriers he had meticulously constructed over the years were beginning to fall apart, piece by piece, revealing a presence that was more genuine and immediate. It caught my attention initially in a gathering. In a surprising shift from his typical approach, he engaged us with inquiries probing into our experiences and exploring what we might enhance together as a team. He absorbed every word, allowing others the freedom to express their ideas. It was a subtle change, yet it opened my eyes to the profound impact our dialogue had on him. That night in his office lingered in my thoughts, weaving a tapestry of memories that beckoned to be revisited. I couldn't help but reflect on the moments we had revealed ourselves, how we had exchanged something deeper than mere words. It was a celebration of the bonds that connect us all. A delicate thread connected us, a trust that went beyond the boundaries of our professional identities. One afternoon, roughly a week later, Mr. Harris extended an invitation for me to share a coffee with him. It was nothing too serious, just a laid-back invite. With a sense of curiosity, I embraced the unknown, excited to discover the journey that our fresh connection might unfold. Our paths crossed at a quaint little cafe close to the office, a spot that offered just the right amount of tranquility for our chat, yet buzzed with a vibrant energy that brought it to life. As I walked in, I found him already settled into his chair, a steaming cup of coffee awaiting him on the table. As I drew near, he lifted his gaze, and a gentle smile spread across his face, radiating warmth. "I'm so pleased you could join me," he said, gesturing for me to take a seat opposite him. I settled into my seat, and for a brief moment we lingered in silence, words unspoken between us. In that moment, time seemed to stretch, allowing the quiet to linger without urgency. It felt warm and familiar, reminiscent of the bond shared between long-lost companions, even though our time together had been brief. After a brief pause, he finally spoke up, shattering the stillness that hung in the air. "I've been pondering deeply on our conversation." From that night, he said, his voice calm, yet contemplative. I listened intently, allowing him the room to share more. "I believe, for so long I've been on a journey evading my feelings and cloaking myself in the busyness of work and obligations. In doing so, I've missed the chance to truly discover the essence of who I am beyond all of that. It feels as though I've been on a quest for others, striving to embody the version of myself I believed they desired, only to discover that I've overlooked my own needs along the way." His gaze locked onto mine, and in that moment, I glimpsed a profound insight, an awareness that transcended his own existence, touching upon the essence of life, humanity, and the collective journeys that bind us together. "It's never too late to change," I murmured, recalling the tales I had shared with him in the past. Each of us is navigating our unique paths, and often the most challenging aspect is embracing our own truths. But once we embark on that journey, it's as if the entire landscape transforms. We begin to embrace life for the true purposes that resonate within us. He smiled once more, this time with a sense of liberation, and I could sense that the burden that had once weighed him down had been released. He shared that he is discovering new things. "It feels like I'm beginning to grasp the essence of living for myself, rather than merely fulfilling the expectations of others." We lingered in the quiet, our coffee cups cradled in our hands, each of us wandering through our own reflections. The dialogue had reached its conclusion, and I sensed a palpable feeling of resolution surrounding us. We had both arrived at a point of recognition and clarity. It wasn't about mending every detail, but rather embracing the reality and journeying onward with it. As we finished our coffee and prepared to leave, Mr. Harris stood up, his demeanor as calm and composed as ever. Yet there was a gentle grace to his movements, now a hint that he had transformed from the man who had first walked into that office so many months ago. "Thank you," he said, his eyes reflecting a heartfelt gratitude. "For your presence, for your attentive ear, for guiding me to discover the hidden truths I overlooked." A smile spread across my face, warmth and satisfaction enveloping me. "You've already taken the first step. You shared your thoughts. That marks the beginning of the journey. In due course, everything will unfold as it should." As we strolled out of the cafe, the evening sun enveloping the streets in a golden hue, it struck me that this was more than just his journey. It was one we both shared. It was a journey filled with transformation, a path of uncovering one's true essence, and the subtle power that arises from fully accepting ourselves without hesitation or regret. As I slid into my car and began the drive home, a wave of tranquility washed over me. Our narrative had reached its conclusion, yet the insights we had gained, the bonds we had forged, would linger with us long after the final sentence had been uttered. It was more than a tale of a boss and his assistant. Once upon a time, there were two individuals whose lives took an unforeseen turn, leading them to realize that transformation is always possible, that vulnerability can be liberating, and that accepting our true selves is a journey worth embarking on. The kind of truth that liberates us, the kind of truth that enables us to exist fully, embracing not only the needs of others, but also our own desires. As darkness enveloped the world around us, I felt a certainty that this evening would linger in our memories forever.